Welcome back, everybody, to the desk. My name is Ardog with a triple G, and I'm with Grady and Moogie, our amazing desk analysts here at the Prime Championship Circuit. Are you hyped or what? We just finished watching our first semifinals, and Dirty Lake and the boys were able to secure a spot in the grand finals. But this time, we got another set of teams coming right at you. So we're gonna take a look at this bracket. Moogie, which teams are we watching next?
So we are going to watch the Chef against Indecisive. Two great teams, like we have said, Indecisive, a team full of EU players, also with Import and Shin that are no stranger of winning some PCC event. But of course, the Chef also hungry for this crown, and with a lot of great players. Of course, we're gonna have to watch that matchup against Cold, against Neft. Kind of like best NA carry against best EU carry for a lot of people. So everyone want to see that fight. Of course, gonna be on NA ping. So Neft has an excuse if that doesn't go well for him.
And let's see some head-to-head stats between these two teams. Chefs and Indecisive. Here are some statistics from our Swiss and group stages, as well as our quarterfinals from yesterday. Grady, walk us through with what you're seeing.
So in terms of KDA, 4.43 for the Chefs and a whopping 10.4 for Indecisive. Indecisive absolutely dominant in all their showings up until now, so we expect to see them continue that trend in this upcoming series. In terms of the objective play, 5.13 versus 4.78 on the side of Indecisive, so the Chefs definitely controlling the map in terms of objective play. Very strong objective play. Looking forward to seeing some of that show coming up. In terms of our gold per minute, 2094 for the Chefs versus 2180 for Indecisive, so very similar, not very much variance here in terms of that. So both of these teams good at generating income for their builds. Damage per minute, 3342 for the Chefs, very brawly, very brawl heavy team, whereas Indecisive with 2587 like to farm a little bit more before they get into those calculated fights where they're getting all these kills and assists. And then CS per minute, 35.4 for Indecisive versus 32.6 for the Chefs. So once again, reflecting very farm heavy team Indecisive EU playstyle. They like to farm. Chefs like to ban the Kalari, not something they really like to deal with consistently, so they prefer to take it off the table. And then Indecisive preferring the Argus ban, showing or understanding it's a very strong character that they personally don't want to play against. Most picked character is Drongo for their main carry Cold on the side of Chefs. Cold, a very strong carry player, very proficient in all the carries, but this team really likes to prioritize Drongo, just like Dirty Lake and the boys previously, so very strong character. And then lastly, most picked character for Indecisive is Bellica, and that is because the support and the mid laner, Manq and Shin, both very excellent Bellica players, huge strength for Indecisive.
And Moogie, would you like to add anything else?
Well, a little thing that we can look at all those stats is like we see a comparison, but also if you compare against the whole field, Indecisive is kind of like a stat killer in a sense. Like against all the teams that were part of like the 2016 Motor Tournament, they're number one on KDA, they're number one on least amount of deaths per like minute, they're number one on assist, number one on gold, number one on ward placed. So they kind of have a team that kind of check all the marks, and we'll have to see if, of course, stats doesn't give everything. And so we'll see that Chef with like looking a little bit like less good in terms of pure numbers can actually like pull up that fight against Indecisive.
Guess we'll have to see. Looking at one of the most picked characters, it's the Drongo. But we saw from our previous game how Kira, on being played by Lakeinator, was able to pop off. So let's look at some Kira numbers as well. Grady, walk us through with these Kira statistics.
So as Ardog already mentioned, Kira, amazing showing in our last set. Lakeinator in his first game, 8-0-12, and then second game, 9-4-6. We see 24 games played for Kira, so she's not being picked a lot with only a 27.85% pick rate. Not seeing very many bans either, but Her win rate, one of the highest that we've seen out of any hero so far, was 64%, and we have seen that in effect already today.
We definitely did, especially in game 1 and 2 between D-Lab and the Professors. But we're not talking about that team anymore. We're talking about Chefs versus Indecisive. We kind of have to break down both of these teams before we head into our predictions here. Mugi, I am going to ask you, before we do the predictions, a little bit more information. Let's start off with the Chefs. You mentioned something about Cold being one of the best AD carries. What else can we learn about them?
Well, I'm a little bit sad that I have to pick the NA team being a EU member myself, but I will do my best to cover them. And so yeah, we have Cold with Shi on the dual lane. Like, to be honest, I keep getting impressed. That's a very tough dual lane to fight into, and they really know how to pressure some leads, and they're very a playmaking dual lane overall. And so that's one of the great team on this aspect. Also, then we have, when it comes to the other side of their players, we're gonna have Sneaks that kind of move to the off lane. And so I feel like Sneaks is a very strong player. He play assassin in the mid lane, but this is where it's a little bit of a wild card. He's still adjusting a little bit against the off lane, and when they play against very strong off laner, that lack of experience sometimes can show, but he's still one of the top player in that game, and so he can definitely show up. Then we have Seismic, that was a late addition before the PCC 7. We all know Seismic, and to be fair, there was a big question mark, is Seismic gonna be back on shape? Because he said that he was retiring from competitive before that event, and watching the recent games, we can say that, yeah, he's back in shape and he's looking very, very, very strong. And of course, we have Mav in the jungle, which he doesn't do anything flashy, but I feel like he's a very smart jungler that always exceed my expectation and always appear at the right time at the right place, and that's very nice to see.
The only thing though with the Chefs that we just heard, they do have an emergency sub, so we won't be able to see Cold. It's going to be Nivula who's going to be their sub on the Chefs. But we also got to talk about Indecisive. Grady, I know Mugi has a lot more information, but unfortunately, Grady, I'm going to ask you about them.
Well, Indecisive, absolutely insane EU powerhouse team. This is the first time I've seen this group of 5 playing together, but they play together incredibly well. Starting over in the duo lane, we have Neft and Manq. Neft and Manq, no strangers to championships. Neft winning a PCC and multiple Fang Booth titles. Manq, the same back-to-back Fang Booth champion over in the EU. Very strong duo lane. Over in the mid lane, we have Shin. Shin has won multiple PCCs. Excellent mid laner, heralded as the most consistent mid lane player in the PCC by most of the players themselves. Very strong showing there. Import, God King Import, God King Jungle. He has that hunt button on a macro key. It's just too good. Stealing objectives, very strong. He's shown us that he can win PCCs, and he has the respect of a lot of players in the PCC right now. And last but definitely not least, we have Moros over in the offlane. Absolutely insane. Grutos. He is a very strong player. Do not leave that guy unchecked. Even if you camp him, he's going to be putting in some work on the map. Same with Manq, back-to-back Fang Booth champion. And that just very strong team overall. Nothing but good things to say about those guys.
I think Mugi, I know you really want to talk about Indecisive. Anything else you'd like to add before we go into predictions?
Well, Grady covered it pretty well. I have a tendency to call Import more the Demon King than the God King, so here it's just a matter of perspective. And I guess if we go into prediction, well, as a EU person myself, with on top of that 3 French men in the squad, and being French myself, I of course have to pick Indecisive for me, and being the stats guys as well, everything pushed me towards that direction. I cannot choose anything else. On top of that, we have unfortunately a sub situation for the side of the Chef, and as full roster, I feel like those 2 teams would be very close, but not once again a little hunch in the direction of Indecisive.
So he is going to be locking in Indecisive for his prediction. That's going to be Mugi locking that in. But Grady, who are you choosing between the Chefs and Indecisive to win this best of 3 series?
This is tough because I'm definitely torn. As you could hear from my excitement talking about Indecisive, nothing but love for those EU boys. Very talented players all across the board. However, they are still the EU boys, and I have to go with my boys in the Chefs. NA Pride all the way. I know they're facing all odds, playing against very, very strong players that have won PCC and different tournaments in the past, and they have an emergency sub for their strongest player, which is very tough to see. But regardless, at the end of the day, like I said, NA guy myself, I gotta go with my NA boys.
That's a hurdle they'll have to work with on top of beating this team that has a lot of numbers on their side. But for myself, I am a big Indecisive fan, so unfortunately, I am going to be locking in Indecisive as well. Chat, go ahead and sort of cheer on for which teams you're hoping to come out and to advance into the grand finals. But now let's get into the draft. Mugi, the teams are a little bit different in terms of strategies going into this draft. What are you expecting to see for bans coming out from Indecisive?
On the side of Indecisive, like they're the only team that, for instance, have banned Gideon against Hive in the yesterday in the quarterfinal. And once again, like we're really like banning specifically to counter some aspect, but while keeping option open. For instance, like on the side of Indecisive, yeah, Moros, we talk about the Grutos, and that's definitely like a person that have like a more limited hero pool. He can play a lot of things, but he's really like 2 times, 3 times stronger on the Grux and the Zarus. So I kind of expect probably like some direction from the chef to try to limit that. While on the side of Indecisive, they also like having like the Argus open for themselves. And so maybe we just remove a Calari, or we try to target Sneaks that we don't want him to play anything that he's very comfortable with, because if he's forced to play on the off role, in a sense, on the off character, that can be like giving a big edge tomorrow. So I would assume maybe trying to target that hero pool.
And while we wait, Grady, are you expecting the same thing, or do you expect something different in terms of bans?
I expect pretty similar to what Mugi's expecting. I don't know how well we're going to be able to limit Sneaks over in the off lane, but starting out with our first ban, already looking to limit Sneaks in his character pool. Kwong completely off the table. That's not something that Moros likes to lane against. It's a very strong character. Sneaks has had a very good showing on the Kwong so far in the PCC, so just very smart to take that off of the table. Chefs opting into banning out the Wraith, taking that away from Neft most likely. I don't really see Seismic piloting it very much, so getting rid of that option. Very strong character, good ban from the Chefs. Xeris being locked in as the very first pick for Indecisive. Very strong first pick material, very good flex option in the jungle and the off lane. Most likely we're going to see it over on Moros because of his very strong playstyle and very big impact on the Xeris. Murdoch FaZe being locked in over on the side of the Chefs for their duo lane. So very strong first 2 picks for those guys.
And I feel like the FaZe Murdoch pick is probably to give like some comfort to not put Nivula on the spot immediately. Like you're facing against ManQ Neft and you can have an emergency sub, so you have that FaZe that protects you. Murdoch, very safe pick and easier to pilot than others. And here we're gonna secure like the Decker for Indecisive with the Twin Blast, so a very like heavy push lane. And we have seen that Neft love to go for his Twin Blast. Naturally, when he's on NA ping, it kind of revolves more into farming simulator, and Twin Blast is perfect for that. And that way you can leave the Twin Blast farming solo and Decker rotate, impacting the map, and you're already having like a double cage setup. Here we're gonna secure the Sevarok. I still have Sevarok on the side of the chef. It's still like a flex pick that can be either jungle or offlane, so they're not like fully closing any door for themselves. And we probably like here looking at targeting some ban, and here we have the Gideon, focusing on the mid lane hero pool. Like Shin has a very, very deep hero pool, and they also love on the side of Indecisive, like this import Shin combination, ganking mid lane is very strong. And here we target the Grux, probably forcing Moros onto the Zarus offlane and letting the import having to pick something else.
So Chef showing us that they are more scared of the Grux, and the potential of putting Xerus into the jungle, as opposed to just Sevarog versus Xerus over in the offlane, that matchup, or even a potentially different matchup. But we see Countess being locked in for most likely the mid lane, but potentially the jungle as well. I've seen Mav and Seismic both piloting this character and doing well with it. Crunch being locked in on the side of Indecisive. That has definitely been going to Import more so than it has been going to Moros. So this Crunch pick, we're more than likely going to see it in the jungle. Bellica being locked in as our 5th pick. So we see Bellica is going to be put in the mid lane. So very strong, well-rounded team comp. Out of the side of Indecisive, not very strong front to back, but very strong in terms of control and in terms of pick potential. Richter, the final pick of our draft, rounding out the chef's composition.
And that leaves us with the draft from game 1. Mugi, we're looking at that Indecisive team comp. How are they going to pilot with this draft going into game 1?
I feel like every single person on the side of Indecisive got what they wanted. I think we're gonna try naturally to play probably around, I would say, off lane and mid lane, because this Crunch can gank this contest mid, can also the Zarus into either the Richter or the Sevarog can actually get some domination, and then kind of try to go into that mid game power spike from that Zarus, that Crunch, that Bellica, because they have a lot of scaling on the side of the chef. So I guess we're gonna try to get control of objective, get some good rotation, and gonna dominate from there.
But on the other side, Grady, what is the strategy you're seeing behind the chef's comp?
Well, the chefs definitely aren't doing themselves any favors in this draft, right? Very heavy scaling across the board. Sure, they have a beefy front line, very strong front line in comparison to Indecisive. However, in terms of aggression, they have little to no aggression. Very little priority in their lanes, and very little early to mid game strength out of this team comp. So they're going to rely heavily on scaling, getting to the late game, and they have to try to slow down the Indecisive game plan. If Indecisive gets out of control, they definitely snowball this game into a victory.
Indecisive versus Chefs. This is game 1 in this best of 3 series here in the semifinals at the PCC. Who will get to advance in the grand finals? Let's find out. We're throwing it over to TJ, DJ, and Tang.
Thank you so much, R-Dog. Wow, what a series we had in our first semi-final. Hopefully this second semi-final is nothing to disappoint as well. And as we know, when TJ and Tang are on the mic, we're going to get another banger series. Indecisives versus Chefs. Tang, I just want to start with maybe the teams in their quarterfinals performance. Indecisive absolutely cleaning house, dismantling the hives. Chefs, though, did look a little shaky in their game against What If as well. So I think Indecisive might be a little bit more confident going into this one.
Yeah, Chefs not really showing too much yesterday. In the second game, they did bounce back though. So first game was pretty rough to watch. Second game, they definitely did play better. So Chefs, with the members they have, I'm definitely expecting them to put up a really good fight against Indecisive. I think they are pretty even, honestly, those two teams. I would maybe give it over to Indecisive. A bit of an engage. Mav has to blink away early. That's going to sting for the Richter.
I mean, immediately segueing into that look about the junglers as well. So we have got that matchup, Mav on the Richter jungle versus Import playing this Crunch as well. And we have seen that this is a pick that Import does like. We have had a bit of a rise in the popularity of Crunch, whereas Rampage, the king of the jungle, looks like he's been dethroned.
Yeah, it definitely has. It hasn't been picked, it hasn't been banned. But DJ, while we are on that topic of jungle, I want to talk about the other roles as well, because in that duo lane, we see Seismic actually pilot that Murdoch, swapping over from that mid lane since Nov is not here. And the counters in the mid lane should be played by Nirvula instead.
Yes. Okay, very interesting to bring up as well, as I mean, the absence of Cold, I mean, the desk have already mentioned it about it as well. Is you're switching out one of the big name players for the Chefs. I know that the matchup going into this one, when we saw semi-finals and who it was going to be against, Neft versus Cold was going to be one of the big hype matchups, but we're not going to get it. It's just the way it is this time. Nivela playing that contest pick though, and getting a bit of a role swap. I don't think I have seen Seismic play that ADC role, so maybe that's something that Indecisive will look to punish.
Yeah, it might be. The only thing is, Seismic is just like a multi-role talent, right? Like if you are good enough on one role, then chances are that you are good enough on different ones as well. I would still rather have Seismic in the mid lane though instead, but Nivola on that counters. One of his favorite heroes should be doing fine. It was actually Shin getting the counter pick in that role, getting the Bellica into the counters matchup, traditionally always in favor of the Bellica, but I've actually heard different opinions from different mid laners actually liking the mid lane matchup into the counters instead, or like as the counters into the Bellicas. I'm definitely thinking that this is going to be one of those pivot points in this game with Richter in the jungle as well, being able to set up those ganks. Shin in the mid lane might just feel that.
Electric going to be propped by Mav. The size himself does come down. Nibbler going to chase with that Shadow Slip as well. Just getting the damage down. Mav is not going to find that Riplash connection, but Shin getting a lot of damage back on towards Mav. Import is here though, but the chefs decide not to drop into the jungle. It's just to back away, but it looks like Mav has to at least be licking his wounds there.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a win, actually, for the side of Indecisive. Not having to blink as the Bellica. Now we see Crunch making the rotation over in the blue side. Mav, no blink, has to be careful. Import is looking.
Yeah, Mav just has to immediately respect it as well. But look towards the minimap. Nivola is at least here as well. Could be walking away from his lane, so maybe to try and get Import out of this jungle, or maybe trying to deny some of those CS creeps as well. But Morose is here, even moving in from his solo side to allow Import to get this invade off. Even going to take away that blue buff. This feels like a disaster for the side of the chefs.
We can see that is one of those set plays that just puts Indecisive up ahead against a lot of the different teams. They have a winning side lane, right, on that Saras with Morose piloting that one, and they transition that lead in that isolated 1v1 against the Sevarog into the blue side jungle, getting the Crunch ahead instead. Really well played, playing around those lanes that are strong early, making sure to not let those advantages go to waste. It's not Saras needing to push in that wave, sitting there under turret with nothing to really do. Instead, he walks into the blue side, gets the forecamp, gets the blue buff, and puts the Richter so far behind already.
And I like as well that you mentioned it is a set play. It's exactly what they did against the Hive as well. Import on this Crunch has had so much impact. It's even looking towards the right-hand side, maybe going for a gank. You see Mav is also over towards the right-hand side as well. Sneaks is going to match him as well. So not going to find much purchase here as we are approaching that 4.5 into the 5-minute mark. That means neutral objectives are going to come up. I'm still looking at the potential danger on this right-hand side, but Jungler's going to decide to at least move away.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there is much happening right there. Import decides to go into the mid lane, but Nivola has a good ward. Is going to make sure to be safe. Does actually bait out Import a bit, got a bit of time, but Shin just wants to push in that wave. Import hovers around to make sure that he is safe doing so. They get both rivers as well, so definitely feeling good for Indecisive already. You were mentioning the Fangtooth spawning as well, 5 minutes in, and usually we see some teams really go for that early. I don't think Indecisive usually is that sort of team, but if they want to transition that early jungle advantage into an objective, I wouldn't be mad about it either.
This is something that the desk mentioned as well. Looking at these kind of the lane matchups for the chefs, it's going to take them a bit of time to really hit their stride, expecting the mid to the late game to be quite powerful. But Indecisive, if they can get ahead, if they can get the ball rolling, would be so difficult. Is that an assessment you agree with, Tang?
Yeah, it definitely is. Like with those heroes, like I think we saw the Crunch being highlighted as well, right? Like if it gets ahead, it is pretty rough. Right there, though, I want to highlight that duo lane with that Richter ganking. Usually, the Richter ganks are pretty easy with the phase setting up those beams or those hooks with the beam. But right here, it was the Decker cage coming through, right? The beam gets blocked. It's really hard to actually get a root off. And Neft also with that dash was going to be able to run away. Mav for the second time in a row tries to find something on that lane, but Import is just fine.
And it's going to bump into Mav here. Import has got the level advantage, and Mankey is going to be here as well. Mav going to be forced to use that blink once again. He has to get away. He is on hand with the tether to pull Mav to safety, but once again, this Richter will be without that blink for another 5 minutes.
Yeah, and with that, they can transition it instantly into that Fangtooth. That should be picked up easily with the crunch, having quite a bit of objective damage with that passive, proccing after each ability cast, dealing just a bit more damage, also getting a bit of health back, so Import should be fine after clearing this one. We see several on the other side of the map, getting actually onto the 5 camp, getting a bit of an advantage against Morose, is gonna pick that up for himself, and Morose is fighting it.
So he's just going to chase him down. That barricade stun going to land, but Sneak still has Colossal Blow, still has the Shadow Glide available to him as well. So Morose just going to get a bit of a better trade. As you highlighted before, Sneak's utilizing that advantage. This lane definitely going to be a difficult one for Sneaks to navigate, with Morose on one of his signature picks as well in the Zara. So he's going to need to get every advantage that he can get.
Yeah, he definitely does, but with that sort of time invested in the early levels for Morose to help out Import in the blue side jungle, at least Several did get a good back, right? That kind of made the lane a lot more playable than it would be otherwise for him. No, Morose on that offlane is gonna get ganked by the Richter again.
Well, it's just going to move on towards that Cyan, just duking it out. The Morose can see the health bars at the moment. Members are on the way over as well. On his duo lane as well, with a heavy trading at least, but that gank's still coming through. Import actually going to make the move over towards the right-hand side. But we're just staying over towards the left. Members are actually going to go over towards the right-hand side with that move towards the Cyan buff as well. As we finally see what's going on. We don't see how it started, but we are going to see how it ends. The first blood going away Morose, but Nivela is here with the gank, with the move. He can't find the feast onto Morose, and he keeps himself alive. Long over the law, can't find the kills. With Import going low, and Sneaks still marching away. Shin makes the move. Seismic Assault not going to connect this time. It looks like this is just going to be the one kill for now, and it goes into a decisive pocket.
It does. And yeah, sadly we couldn't see the entire fight happening right there, but it was Morose buying so much time, surviving with a sliver of HP there as well, dodging away from the long arm of the law, dodging and weaving, having a good time on the Darius. And you said it before, right? Morose is confident on that hero. We associate this guy with the Grux, but he's also so efficient on that Ceres. Now, though, on the dual lane, another guy that really loves the hero he's playing is Neft on the TV, picking up the support phase on the side of the Chefs.
And this is what we see time and time again from this indecisive team, and also these players when they play across other rosters as well, be it Team Immune, be it even worse timing. It's just a team that when they get ahead, it just feels like that ball just keeps rolling and it goes down the hill, and it never really lets up if they're allowed to play that the way that they can. And looking for now, indecisive definitely going to be more happy. They've not been able to take any maybe decisive moves towards these neutrals here. I mean, they have at least picked up the first one. Manq going to be just warding that one out, making sure they are going to be here for the second Fangtooth as well. But it is up to the Chefs, and I'm getting a little bit of flashbacks towards yesterday, Tang. It took time for the Chefs to really grow into this game.
Yeah, it did, and I'm hoping for them that it is going to happen this time as well. Seismic gets the pick onto Manq. That could be the start. Import fighting against Matt.
Going to be a numbers advantage for the side of the Chefs. Import wants to say something about that. Mavs looks towards to connect the Rip Flash, but not going to find it. Jungler is down, indecisive, getting that ball rolling. Nivela has to go back towards the tier 1 tower. A lot of pressure starting to exert, but the Chefs do at least get one kill back, but indecisive will not make it for free. Morose and Import going to start up the mini prime.
Yeah, and the mini prime wasn't traded out when Indecisive did take that first Fangtooth, so it is still the first mini prime, and it is no objective being taken by the Chefs so far. It's partly because of the slow jungle clear of the Richter, and also getting that blink early on just made it so hard for Richter to really play the game. Severok might be in a bad spot though.
He's at least going to use that Shadow Light Glide to get over the right-hand side, but it's the problem with Indecisive. They love to fight off camera. Neft is going to add yet another kill. This time I'm going to put Seismic down. We'll switch over to the right-hand side. Chefs look for the engage, and Import's in trouble. Colossal Blow into Skewer, into so much damage, and Jungler falls. But the side of Indecisive, Morose is still here with the mini prime buff. Throws down the Colosseum, going to trap 2, but Sneak's got a blink to get away. But Mav does not have that luxury. He's going to have his health whittled down by Shin, by Morose, as the Seismic Assault connect into towards the Void Bomb, and there is a Spear of Near to collect onto another kill. Morose grabbing 2.
And with Morose collecting that mini prime for himself as well, this Ceres is gonna be so strong. Didn't get the Colosseum stack with that flash away from the Subrock, but he certainly doesn't feel too worried about that. Already on his way to finish the augmentation as his first item. He's gonna take the wave together with the sign buff, get a good reset for himself, and then it's already time for that Fangtooth to be contested. First one did go over to Indecisive pretty early on. We can see like whether they want to play for that Fangtooth win con, getting those Fangtooth as early as they can, using that winning duel and using that winning jungle matchup in order to get that for themselves.
Just a lot of winning across the board from this Indecisive team, and you can immediately see that's what Indecisive wants to do. They can't let up this pressure. They can't let the chefs get to that very scary late game with the Seb, with the counters, with this Murdoch as well. They need to win this early game. They're doing it very handily as well. They're just getting an advantage on the left-hand side as input starts on the Fang 2 pit, but Mav is on the way. You've also got Nibbler is here. Mav just walks forward. They're going to find the Rift Flash for the seismic assault. Maybe they can burn the jungler. Maybe they can make this so much more easy, and that is how you do it. Mav is down, which means this Fangtooth is a very easy secure for the side of Indecisive.
I was about to critique Indecisive a bit with Neft going for the gold buff instead of linking up with his team to go for that Fangtooth, but it was actually 200 IQ because it sort of mind control Richter to actually engage. Now Nivola under T1 is gonna get dove. Morose is gonna pick that one up, or at least get him low enough for Shin to do so. Now with that mini prime on that mid lane tier 1, still on the Ceres, they should be able to push down the tower, get the turret for themselves. First tier 1 of the game, first objective of the game, first kill of the game. Everything is going in favor of Indecisive.
Really liking imports on the back end of that one with that tower dive, the kill coming down on towards Nivola, but also just avoiding as that final fatal blow. He dropped down to 33 HP, avoided the final tower shot, and then had the juke boots on, floated like a butterfly, stinging like a bee as well to avoid the long arm of the law as well. And it's just keeping Indecisive so far ahead in this game. Having a look at the items though, you can see that Nivola's thinking towards that late game potential. You can see the Orb of Growth going to be picked up by this counter. She's going to hit like a truck, but it seems that truck is just going to be a very far away, probably stuck on that M25.
Yeah, it's definitely stuck in traffic. Now Import though, this guy hits like a truck as well with the Berserker's Axe on the dual lane. Morose fighting into 2, but they have to back off. Import in the vicinity, gonna make sure that his offlaner is doing fine. He's gonna go into the blue side jungle to get some more resources. Nibula in the bad spot.
He uses that blast flower. It's actually going to look for the engage. There's the feast on towards Import, but Import doesn't really care. There's a blink of Colosseum, and Shin is there to provide the setup. Bye-bye to the mid laner of the chefs. And now Mav has to try and get away. Sneaks is here, does have the disengage, but the knockup comes through once again from Import. Looking to engage. Sneaks not going to actually find that subjugate, but he's just going to get to his tower, get to safety, but Indecisive still on the hunt for more. They're going to take this side of the jungle. The chefs just can't move anywhere on this map without Indecisive being there.
They really identified what they want to target this game, and it is just a slow clear of the Richter. And with the blink, as we highlighted before, being forced at level 1 just made the Richter's game so hard to play. Mav not having a good time, such a slow clear. It's just getting punished at this point with the winning side lanes, with the winning jungle matchup. It's just really hard for him to do much, but he's looking towards the duel lane.
That stasis bomb is going to land a stun, but the Impale comes down and trying to get the damage on towards Mankey. Maybe get this decker down. That is what they're going to do, but it's going to cost them to pick on towards Zihi. Neft still throwing out that damage. Still very much in this fight. It's just isolated 1v1 on the left-hand side. Let's get some damage, but Nivulia is here from the mid lane. Long arm of the law. Not going to find the mark. Ventilate can't confirm the kill either. That's a blink, but blink follows from Mav. The Rift Flash connects, and Neft is going to fight with his life. That's 2 for 1 found for the side of the chefs.
Not respecting where the members are. A bit of an overstep by Manq and Neft right there. They end up getting punished by a good rotation by Mav together with the counters being there first, making sure that this game is not running away from them too much. Even with their star ADC player missing. Chefs on the dual lane not doing too bad for themselves. Granted, they did lose the tier 1, but Seismic definitely pulling his weight in this one.
Keeping himself in the game as well. It has been a rough old time. Neft getting those 2 kills in the left-hand side means that Indecisive firmly in control of this game and still getting the sense as well that just throughout this map, they are the ones calling the shots. It's almost like the chefs having to run out and put out these fires in their kitchen at the moment. Manq, look towards side, as we can see, he is going to go for containment defense down. Maybe a little bit split, Shin trying to get damage on towards side. Rift Walker's play from Manq. We're going to find the mark, but Seismic goes up, he goes back down, but he's still on this map. Zihi also in the back line, indecisive, just can't focus any of these targets down, and the chef's able to get away.
Get away. A lot of blinks invested, though. I'm looking at objective timers. Mini Prime should be up any second now. This could be one of those things that even though you don't get a kill, it forces the chefs far enough away that they should be able to get this. It's also Neft making the rotation over. 5v5 almost. Bellica on the way back. Math is looking.
If he can get towards this pit, he's going to throw down the skewer on towards two members. Energy lands on towards Import, and actually going to get the kill. Sticks double subjugate. Colossal blows the Indecisive team into the wall. They do not get the mini prime, but it looks like they're going to get and clean up house. Neft kiting as best as he can to get away from these members, but he's just stuck between all five. The chefs find a massive collapse on the right-hand side.
They thought they had enough time, they thought they had enough damage, and the chefs knew it was not the case. They managed to turn it around. Mini Prime secured by Indecisive, but it is all they get. They end up losing the fight with Manq sadly crashing in that fight again. The DC coming in. Decker is back in the game now though, but with that team fight lost, it looks like Fangtooth is just going to be collected by the chefs.
And the chefs really need that play. How many times are we going to see a Sevarog just have so much impact in these matches? Double subjugate into the colossal blow really sealed the deal for the chefs to clap back and get this kill score looking a little bit more close, at least 9 kills to 8. We're 18 minutes into this match. Is one more Fangtooth being responded. The chefs starting to go into this game much like their matchup before. Import going to take away this red buff as well. Sneaks maybe not going to let it go for free, but a good containment defense because comes down from Manq, returning to the fray once again, able to get Import out. But with no neutrals on the mind, looks like we have a little bit of an equilibrium and no one really overstepping.
And it's really important that chefs were able to profit off of that team fight. Like, they pretty much got everything they wanted. They got the 2 objectives. Actually, they only got the Fangtooth, but they got rid of the mini prime on the side of Indecisive. I think it was Morose picking that one up again, but with the team fight 1, they could they bought themselves so much time. If they were to lose the third Fangtooth, it's really hard for them to play the game against the TB, against Azaris. Like, those guys deal so much damage, and it would be pretty impossible for the Murdoch to play the game too much. Now, with that chef's team fight win, it is them getting out a bit ahead, making sure that they are in this game for much longer, and we see it sort of how they path around the map. They're a lot more confident, but Import still not.
They're still looking to make the moves towards the mid lane. Nivulia actually will use that Shadow Slip as he is here with the Tether. Will be able to pull Countess away. Energy Lance comes down. Potential re-engage with Mav here. Riplash not going to find him up, but Nivulia leading with the Feast. Import taking a lot of damage hit by the Skewer. That's a lot of CC, and Import is able to get to safety, but off screen we're going to lose Neft, and we're maybe going to lose Import as well. The even Tide is able to crash and take down Import, and now Shin came here with the Epoch as well, trying to rescue the situation, but Morose with the re-engage the Colosseum on towards 3 members, trying to burn down this backline, maybe get the pick onto Zihi, and he will find it underneath the tower. Shin getting the seismic assault, but it's also going to be a blink. A buckshot comes down to answer back. It's a 2 for 3 as indecisive reinforcements arrive with Morose still in the middle of this fray. He's going to get a 3rd kill, and now Mav has got no mana. He's going to very quickly have absolutely no health at all. Chefs losing 4. It's a bloodbath in that mid lane.
It's a bloodbath. All in all, it was a 4 versus a 4 for 3. 3 members dropping for Indecisive. Sneaks on that left-hand side. Just 1 versus 2 against Neft, and the Manq just gets ahead out of it with the Demolisher not being picked up quite yet by Neft. Maybe a reoccurring thing from yesterday as well, thinking about the what if game. But yeah, definitely a bit of an overstay by chefs afterwards. It was Seismic blinking in, getting the kill onto Bellica, but he trades his own life for it. He trades the Richter's life for it as well, and ends up dropping down. Also, it does not have the blink up for those next team fights. Definitely showing a lot of signs of life in this one.
Absolutely, and I want to echo those words that you used, Tang. how the Chefs are moving around. They're playing with confidence. It feels like ever since that collapse on the right-hand side, just the mental must be feeling so good under pressure from Indecisive for so long. In fact, the Chefs are so confident they're going to go and try and sneak an early or prime as well. Members of Indecisive aren't even in the postcode at the moment, but this is still an early play, 21.5 minutes. Members are arriving. Indecisive will eventually realize that no one's showing on the map. They must be here. Reinforcements starting to get here. They're going to walk over the walls. They know that this is where the next fight is going to be. As your prime is still not gone down. Moreau's trying to get in towards the pit. Indecisive. He's going to be import as well. Can he get towards the pit? Good boy, can in he goes. And Indecisive steals the Your prime, but it might cost him more because import is down 1-for-1. Jungle for jungle. Side getting that kill on towards import. And they're just looking to clean up house. Indecisive want to re-engage. They want to kite out this fight. The stay spawns coming down the CC, and Morose is in the middle of it all. Two more gonna drop and make that a third. They steal the Your prime, smash and grab. Chefs are aced at the Your prime pit.
He just doesn't miss. Don't let that import guy next to your objectives. You are not gonna win the 50-50. That dash in the cleanse, making sure that he is the one getting out on top. Does end up dropping. Ultimate used, feast used by the counters, but it only buys a bit of time. It's still the prime collected, and with that prime, they win the team fight as well. Waves being pushed in, getting the tier 2s, trying to go for the inhibs next. 3 members in the mid lane, shoving down. Death timer still for another 5 seconds on 3 members. They should get that inhib. Right wave should be hitting the inhib a bit, but they are playing it smart. They're playing it collected, going back, getting those resets, getting those item buys after the one team fight, and then Fangtooth has spawned. Primal Fangtooth could be a win condition as well. Chefs are aware, they're making their way over as well.
They know this is where that next fight is. I mentioned just before about the mental, the confidence that can come from teams when you win that team fight Indecisive. Those last 2 engages, probably not what they wanted, but now a clean sweep on the right-hand side. Indecisive back in the driver's seat for this one. And it feels like this is a tale of solo laners in PCC 7 as well, running the show. And what can they do as well? Moreau's going to find a Coliseum onto all 5 members stuck inside, but it might be a one-way ticket. Moreau's actually able to get away, and Indecisive want to collapse with a good skewer, a good impale, buys time. And Import's going to be punished for his aggressions. Moreau starts that fight, but it's going to be Chefs winning the first pick. Now they want more. They want to maybe get another exit frag. It's only the 1 member down on towards Import. That would mean that this next Fangtooth would be a free secure, but they've got minion waves to deal with. Chefs have to make the choice. Do they stick or do they twist?
And it's so weird of Morose to engage there with minion waves shoving in on that mid lane, on that right side. They just need to buy a bit of time, and they should be getting that Fangtooth just out of default just because of those waves. Instead, they hard commit and they end up getting punished with the counters dealing out so much single target damage, having the lockdown as well with the phase, providing so much security to the carries. And now it is the prime play sort of thwarted with the jungler down. It's really hard for them to push out anything. 4 versus 5 is not something that Indecisive wants to do. Now, the dance around that Fangtooth, though, that is not stopping.
Of course, so this is to take your partners and go for another dozy-do around this pit on the left-hand side. The way that the map is, Indecisive have got the Fangtooth pit in their territory. The Chefs are able to look into it from their jungle as well. And it feels like we go back to square one. Morose looking for an engage. Slice actually finds himself isolated on the left-hand side. Doesn't have the tether from Zihi. But Sai's going to play it safe as Mankyu and Import go in. And Zihi just gets popped like a balloon. And that's the support down. Sai still behind everyone. But Morose, that Coliseum once again catches onto 2. And Mav is stuck inside a blender. That Indecisive are more than happy to provide. Neff gets the kill. Jungler down and Indecisive look to take their third bank.
Yeah, Big Prime has expired, but they don't need it. They want the Raptor instead. Seismic completely out of position there, kind of forces his team to step up, and it is the phase, it is the Richter dropping for sort of his sake. Did manage to channel a recoil, so is back. No, Big Prime, Primal Fangtooth has been secured. Nebula is gonna get hit by the stun. The rest of the members are trying to catch up on him, but it does look like he bought enough space for himself to escape.
Gotta take a moment, gotta step away, got to reset as well. The death time is going to complete an import. That is going to be Mav making their way back onto the map as well. Indecisive taking the opportunity to reset, go back to base, spend that gold as well. Still measured, still controlled, because Chefs, we've seen what they can do in these team fights, but indecisive in these later moves as well. It's so back and forward. This game feels so swingy as well with this late game. We spoke about that late game time bomb ticking for the side of the Chefs with 26.5 minutes in towards this game. You can see the items being picked up as well. Imports decided to go, wanted to maybe go and enter the record high jump with the Galaxy Greaves picked up for himself as well. Going to see maybe how that plays out for him, but not something that we normally see on a crunch build, Tang.
Yeah, definitely an untraditional build, but it allows him to traverse terrain a bit better, right? Jump up and get those sort of flanks that people are not expecting. It's one of the strengths that he can also use it to dodge out on the route from Sevarog. So there's definitely a bunch of applications for it, but it is not the easiest sort of item to use. If you've ever played a game like this, you do know that people do love jumping, so Import needs to use his jump, pretty well in order to get the most effort, to get the most actually gain from that item. But now with the Primal Fang being secured, we see them push down the mid wave. They push down the right wave as well, with Morose split pushing, but not having the prime buff, not being able to buff up those minions means that it's really hard for them to actually siege into the Chef space.
That's why Indecisive setting up around his whole prime once again will be spawning in a matter of moments as well, and the team on Dawn side are in position for it. So of course no one's showing, so Chefs must know they're around here. Import looking for the engage, and they're actually going to look towards Maverick, get the jungler again. That will be the pick thereafter, and it's going to be a skewer. It's going to be delayed, but they do get the kill, catch of the day, and also dropping Nevulia as well. And Seismic steps in with a pizza in his hand and fires all around him. What on earth just happened? He's got to mull over it in spawn. 3 members drop Indecisive straight back to your prime.
That as well means that this should not be able to be stolen away from Import and the rest. Indecisive getting ahead with the good team fight, securing the prime with it as well. 30 seconds death timer on the carries for the Chefs means that if Indecisive wants, they can look to get those inhibs again. They want at least a mid lane inhib that is fake, doesn't shoot back, and is preventing those super minions from spawning again. Sihi and Sneaks, the only ones defending. It is going to be the Richter up in 5 seconds as well, but I'm expecting Indecisive to not respect that too much, shoving down the mid lane, transitioning into the right-hand side as well.
They did all of that work with that first Orb Prime take as well to remove the tier 2 towers off the map, so now they can freely siege onto the base of the Chefs. You can see just the poke, the engage that can come out from Indecisive, and also if Import wants to get a little bit fancy with his footwork as well. It's a find it. It's a Rip Flash connects, but good use of the cleanse keeps Neft alive. The Colossal Blow disengages Import from the backline, but Sneaks is hurting, so is Nevulia. Morose wants to add to that pain, but a blink comes out, and now Sneaks, the Sevarog, is out of this fight, and the Chefs losing their front line. They have got the fountain behind them. They can heal back this mob, but it looks like Indecisive want to close out this game. They'll want to go for the core. They also need to take out the members because the Chefs are here and they're still dealing a lot of damage. Shin taking down his opposing members. Some Neft still hitting on towards the core. 3 more members drop. Indecisive gonna take this first game in style, but the health bars are going low. Import actually dropping as well, but as long as Neft is here, they still have the damage. Morose looking for the play, and he's gonna take down Sai. It's only Zihi left, and finally that core will drop.
That core will drop. It did look a bit spicy there towards the end, but it is Indecisive pulling it off instead. It was a really good catch in that blue side jungle, playing around those objective timers really well, getting the lead early on. The Chefs showing signs of life, getting ahead in the mid game, getting those big objectives for them. The Fangtooth extending the game quite a bit. You got to think that if Indecisive secured that one, it would have been an easier road to victory. But yeah, it's just that Import steal on that prime completely swung the game again. And it is Indecisive from there on out to just win the game.
Yeah, completely swung the game in their favor. We know what happens with Import. Those objectives are just his. He's got that hunt on a macro. I think that's what the desk said as well. But the Chefs, though, definitely signs of life. You saw they were able to answer back. They were able to match some of the moves from Indecisive, but that early game was just too strong. The setup was too good. We have got another game to look forward to. Indecisive won a spot in the grand finals. This is a best of 3 series to break down game number 1. We're throwing it back to the desk.
Thank you, TJ and Tang. Welcome to the desk, everybody. My name is Ardog with the Triple G, and I'm back here with Grady and Moogie, our amazing desk analysts, here to break down that game for you. Indecisive and the chefs just able to put on a show with a sprinkle of chaos. Anytime they were able to just land any crowd control on any member of the chefs, they were just instantly deleted. Indecisive knows how to play the video game called Predecessor. Moogie, what exactly happened in that first game?
Well, it felt like Indecisive were starting to be like into a good shape. Rictor jungle is very hit or miss, and if you miss, suddenly like you fell behind, and that's kind of what happened. Also, like Import, very proficient, go for the invade. But to be fair, like we have seen the chef with actually glimmer of hope, especially like on that team fight around the prime. That of course we get magnitude at DC, but the chef was ahead in that team fight, so the DC was important, but at the same time not that crazy important, and they start to come back, and they even almost managed to sneak an all prime, but Import, the Demon King, too fast on the hunt, and after that hunt, like actually steal that all prime and almost clean up everyone, then like the team was too far ahead, and we have seen like some crazy number from Moros, Shin, and Neft, and that was too much to handle.
Call him Demon King, some call him the God King Import, but there's also Shin on that Bellica, Neft, Mancu, and Morose on that Zarus. But Grady, how else did the chefs lose out in game one, and how was Indecisive able to secure their victory?
Well, Tang, TJ, and Moogie all put it very, very well already. I mean, I don't think that the chefs did themselves very much justice in their team comp. They had a very rough time up until that first orb fight. They couldn't make anything happen on the map. They were lacking in the damage department across the board. The prioritization of their draft because of the sub definitely did not do them any favors. But regardless, when they started to get that traction, they were showing signs of life. They were doing great, tried to make the desperation play on the Orb Prime sneak, and it just didn't pan out the way that they wanted to. Lost the 50-50, and then it was kind of over from there. So tough game, but despite all odds, despite having the sub, Chefs really doing a great job trying to show what they can do last game.
They definitely did, and we'll just have to see how they'll do in game number 2. But we're going to be taking a quick break, because coming right at you is game number 2 in this best of 3 series in the semifinals.